Hey guys, welcome back to the Dose Sports Podcast. And yes, we're in a bit of a different setting here, and we've got special guest Terry, former host of Big Sports Breakfast and general manager of the Racing League. Great to have you here.
Nice to be here, Ben, Arjun, Charlie and Nathan. It's a big cast of 1,000.
And we're also joined by Nathan here with Connection Sports and City Tattlesall, is that right?
Yep, sure is. And again, thanks for having us as well. I'm very excited for the first City Tats Live podcast to be held here tonight. And I'm going to talk plenty of things sport and the one that's very close to my heart, a little bit of racing a bit later on as well.
Yeah, very excited about that. First of all, we want to give a big thanks to City Tattlesall Club for giving us the opportunity to broadcast here from their cafe at 198 Pitt Street. We hope to see many more come here in the coming weeks. First of all, we'd like to welcome our new major sponsor, Connection to Sports, which is written as CNX2 Sports, if you want to Google that, ran by the great Luke Edmonds. Connection to Sports is a sports event management company that helps organisations build networks and relationships via sporting events. They are also members of the corporate concierge program here at City Tattlesall. So yeah, big thank you to them. And another major sponsor, we'd like to also welcome Scape as a major sponsor and of our Humbly Sports podcast. Scape is Australia's best and biggest student accommodation organisation in Australia across Melbourne, Brisbane and Sydney, and they thankfully agreed to come on board. Many thanks and big shout out to Stephen Gaetanos for supporting these three students here that are excited to welcome fellow students to our podcast. Let's rip in. Tomorrow night, big fight, Paul Gallen versus Brown. Charlie, I know you're across this. You want to give us a tip on what you think's going to happen?
Got to back my big man, Gal.
Yeah.
He's weighing in, I think, 15
kilos less. Yeah,
a bit less, I read.
102.
So I'm backing him to have a bit of a speed advantage. I know Brownie's hasn't fought in a while. But I mean, in saying that, you'd have to admit it'd be Gal's toughest challenge yet.
Yeah. I don't think he's fought anyone over who's fought more than 10 fights, sorry. So
yeah, his toughest challenge yet was the master of the cheap shot.
Yeah.
Bazar.
Yeah.
And then again, close fight with Mark Hunt in his last one.
Yeah.
People were debating the earlier rounds should have gone to Mark Hunt. Mm-hmm. That gave Gal the win. But I think with this one, Gal will have the speed advantage, and that's why I'm backing him.
Sure. Strongy?
Back Gal, big man.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of trash talking so far, so pretty excited for the fight to get underway.
Yeah, for sure. Terry, you across the fight or?
Yeah, I was lucky enough to be at Parramatta Stadium for Gal's last fight against Mark Hunt. It was an absolute cracking contest. Yeah. I can tell you what, I was super impressed by Gal. One thing you can doubt a little bit of his boxing science, but you can't doubt his courage. He was enormous up against Mark Hunt. Mm-hmm. Much bigger man, probably not as fit as Gal, but this is a bit of a step up. I think this is the end of Paul Gallen as far as in the ring. I don't see that this is if Brown's, it's all about attitude in the fight game.
Yeah,
I mean, Lucas Brown's won a world heavyweight title, one of the world heavyweight titles. And then, of course, he had the setback when he tested positive to a banned substance, and that sort of destroyed his entire career. Mm-hmm. But if Lucas Brown has got himself in shape, and he looks in pretty good shape, and it's all about attitude. And we'll probably know halfway through the opening round of this contest about who's going to be winning. But if Lucas Brown is 70% of where he needs to be, he'll be too big, too strong, and land too many powerful punches to Gal, who's big on heart, but in the end, everyone has a chin. Yeah. And, if he keeps putting him on the chin, Lucas Brown will be too strong for him. Mm-hmm. But is he fair dinkum? Is he just taking the cash? Is this his only fight? Does he really want to get his career back on track? All of those sorts of questions you've got to ask. Yeah. But it'll be about attitude. If his attitude's right, his fitness is right, Gal's really going to feel it.
Sure.
I mean, that's what you can argue. Gal's just starting his boxing career, and Big Daddy Brown is basically on the other end. So I think there's more motivation in Gal's favour. I think he's got more to lose in that regard. I think if he wins, he's got more fights coming up for him, I guess, where I guess you can argue it's Brown's last fight if he wins. So
absolutely. I mean, I can give you one thing. Retirement in boxing is swift.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it happens in a blink of an eye, and you don't see the punch coming. And I know, again, Gal's huge motivation, and he's pretty honest about it, Nathan, is money. He's in the fight game for money. He's played 4,000 rugby league games. He's pretty well heeled anyway, but he loves a dollar, Gal, to be absolutely honest with you. And it's all about money, and that's why he's in the fight game. It's about money. And then the fight game's all about money. The fight game's all about putting blokes in the ring that people want to watch fight. Yeah. And people want to watch... They wanted to watch Gal v Mark Hunt. A boxing purist probably didn't. Yeah. But a boxing purist probably doesn't want to watch Gal v Brown. But Brown should be too good. But it's all about money, the fight game.
Okay.
It is. It's quite exciting because to see live sport back, and particularly boxing. Like, I don't know what the stat was, but we hadn't had a live boxing match in the country for a long period of time. But within 12 months, we've had some really good events. Yeah. And touching on Gal, the one thing we will know is he will be fit. And the attention and focus he puts on that is massive, and he takes it off the football field for what he's done in the past. But tomorrow is definitely a test, and I think there are some nerves there in preparation as well.
Ben Argent and Charlie, you probably remember that Gal got hit by Hunt in the early rounds, any sort of human being would have been down on the canvas. Somehow he withstood that. He still doesn't know, Gal to himself, doesn't know how he withstood that one punch, and he managed to win. But this is a step up. Yeah. This is a huge step up.
So, you're going with Lucas Brown to win tomorrow?
Easy.
Any round prediction?
4.
Round 4. Charlie?
I'm going Gal.
Yeah.
I think, I don't know, it's definitely his toughest test. And when I was at the Mark Hunt fight as well. Yeah. I think a true boxer could have probably polished Gal off when Hunt was landing those big shots, but still got to back my big man. Yeah. Going Gal.
Okay. Gal round...
round 5.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna go Lucas Brown round 8.
I'm gonna go early sluggathon and see Brown or Gal's gonna hit the canvas in third round.
Okay. Any prediction for it?
Yeah, I'm tipping a lazy punch, or someone will not be ready for it, but I think probably round 5.
Okay.
I think.
Fair enough. Looking forward to that fight tomorrow. We should move into rugby league. With our segment, fan favourite, Give Me a Dose. And we're going to go, give me a dose of Manly making the 8. I want to start with you, Terry.
1,000,000 to 1.
1,000,000 to 1. Yeah.
Tommy Turbo, fantastic to see him back, scoring the try, setting up another couple, an elite player. He's going to get picked for Origin. That's going to even put more pressure on his hamstring. He'll be out at the mall running up the Corso again at some stage on a Friday or Saturday night. So I think that hamstring's going to plague him, unfortunately, for his entire career.
Yeah.
They call it old man calf, old man hamstring. He's not old, he's got a hamstring of an old man. Yeah. Unfortunately, because he's an absolute highlight reel. Yeah. Even with him back, they're hapless, Manly. I can't see him making the 8.
Yeah. I mean, he did put in a good performance last year. I mean, his in terms of a player's importance to a club, I don't think it's bigger importance to Manly than Tom Trbojevic in terms of any other team in the league. I think his strike rate when he comes back is like 72% compared to like 36%. I think, Chuck, is that right?
Yeah, but the question is, it's not Manly going to make the 8. Is Turbo a 40-point difference?
Yeah.
We saw before that Manly were getting beaten pretty badly. But when Turbo comes back, they put a real good number on the Titans. Sorry.
Yeah.
But can they sustain that? I know with Turbo, Manly do have more confidence. Just all the players around. We saw Turbo have his best game of the season. DCE have his best game of the season. Kieran Foran have his best game of the season.
Yeah.
It's just the question's whether they can sustain, and I can't see that happening. So.
Ben?
Yeah, I'll go back to it. We've talked about it the last couple of weeks. I'm worried about the squad depth that Manly have in the forwards and the backs. I think it was exposed in the early rounds. I think I'm just concerned that Des has been re-signed for the long term, and that there's so much money invested in 4 or 5 key players that it's going to hurt them this season, like we've seen early, and it's going to hurt them in the coming seasons with Des still at the helm of the Seagulls.
I agree. Nathan, anything to add on that?
Yeah, they won't make the 8.
Yeah, won't make the 8.
And I think if you have a look, there's almost 2 competitions this year with the separation.
For sure.
And it will be interesting to see how they go in the next couple of weeks. Were Titans just lazy?
Yeah.
And not ready for it and got run over, but it's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, the signing of Dares is something that the signing of any coach long term leaves me flabbergasted. And why you'd want to re-sign Dares, who's an absolute legend and a genius and a premiership winning coach and all of the above, and a little bit of a twisted genius, the mad scientist we always used to call Des. He's a terrific guy, but why any CEO would have to go out and sign Des in round 2 of the competition when you know your team's not going to be making the 8, and you haven't really got a lot of money to go recruiting for the next couple of years, and his loyalty to Kieran Foran stuns me. How he took him back to Manly. I just don't see any logic in it. It's going to be a long, long road for the Manly side.
They need to put in a bit of a shift to get back in the 8. We'll move to the next one. Carlton, this is for you, Strong, more AFL based. Carlton season is already over.
Look, I'd say Carlton's still in the hunt for the 8, barely though. Their list is I think what's the talk? The talk has been that the spine they have is a spine that's going to last them 10 to 15 years. Yeah. We all know it's a good spine. It's got Harry Mackay, it's got Patrick Cribbs, it's got Jacob Wiedering. It's got key players, and Sammy Walsh in the midfield as well. It's got key players that can take them to a premiership eventually. It won't happen this season, but the Carlton Football Club's aim will still be to make the 8. So I think it's still on the cards, but they're going to need to put in a serious turn of good form in the next month or so prior to the bye, which comes in 6 to 8 weeks, to see if there's any chance of making it. Because if they're not, I think David Teague is a good chance of being shown the door because he's just not mixing youth with young guns very well at the moment.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's not already over, but I've seen press say that's already over, but still very early. Stranger things have happened. They can definitely turn around the season. I think we'll move in to the games that happened this week. Thursday night, Panthers' performance just got up over Brisbane, 20-12. Pretty poor performance from them, or was the Broncos too good?
I think it was definitely Brisbane's best performance of the season by far.
Yep.
Brodie Croft had his best game. Tavita Pango had his best game. But we just saw the class of Nathan Cleary pull through at the end.
Yep.
The best halves are the ones that can pull through during big moments, I guess, and we saw that with Nathan Cleary. Yes, they weren't at their best, but the good teams find a way to win even when they're not playing at their best.
Terry?
Yeah, I think they're 6 from 6, the
Yeah.
Penrith Panthers, and I think the week before they put in the worst 20 minutes I've seen and they still won.
Yeah.
And I think this week they put in another disgraceful 20 minutes against a very pumped up Brisbane Broncos who are playing for their coach and Kevy Walters, who again is one of the nicest blokes in the history of rugby league, and he was very passionate before the game. You normally see that ranting and raving at half time or at full time.
Exactly,
we actually saw it before the game. So that was the magnitude of the moment there for the Brisbane Broncos. The Panthers are the real deal. There's no doubt about that. And they haven't really, they're not using Kikau as much as they were last year. He's not a battering ram anymore. He's more a decoy.
Yeah.
They just need to keep him fit and well. And, of course, the halves are the key. And, you know, they're going to get a hooker coming back as well in Api Coruscant. They've done all this without Coruscant being there, which is phenomenal. So you take away your dummy half and you're 6 from 6 to start the competition. I don't think Nathan Cleary and Ivan Cleary's got too many sleepless nights ahead.
And just how good is Brian Todd? Like, I know he got peppered a little bit with the high ball. He dropped a couple. But, geez, he's a goaler, 5'10", 100 kilos. But he just reeks of tackle breaks and leg drive. I know probably his worst game of the season, he still runs near 300 running metres, which is just insane. And the whispers of him making an Origin start are growing. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely Todd's on the radar for Origin. The only question I have about the Panthers that you could be able to answer for me, Terry, is do you think they are an arrogant side that lacks strong character?
I don't think so at all. In fact, I love watching them play. I don't mind that. I love that youthful exuberance. I love the fact that they have just playing with big smiles, and it's easy to smile when you're winning.
Yeah,
you know,
sure.
Their problem's going to be when they go through that losing trough, and they will go through a losing trough, and the smiles will disappear. I think they got a little bit carried away the other night. Maybe it was Tapanow, wasn't it?
Tarpany,
Tarpany got brought into it by a cry.
Yeah, which that was unfortunate. I mean, it's a game of rugby league.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just a little bit of an unfortunate incident, but you know, I saw them shaking hands instead of high-fiving and bum slapping as they do now last weekend. I think they're best things to happen to rugby league for a very, very long time.
Yeah,
Before you guys went into high school there, they used to say that when Parramatta was winning, rugby league was winning. And I think you can now say when Penrith are winning, rugby league's winning. It's a huge nursery out there. They're local kids. They've come through the juniors together.
Yeah.
They play with big smiles on their face. They're exciting. Toko you spoke about. I think they're fantastic for the game of rugby league at the moment, and I'm sure league headquarters are hoping they keep on going. Arrogant. When you're winning, you can be a bit arrogant.
Yeah, I think so. We'll move to the next game. My boys, the Storm, dominated the Roosters on Friday night. I think there's talk about Brandon Smith, Harry Grant being the best 1-2 combination. I thought more teams would do it after the third Origin where Harry Grant and Jake Friend played sort of two hookers, and I thought, mate, that paid dividends in that game, and they were very effective. I thought more teams would start doing that. Where to for the Roosters, and can Storm go all the way?
Oh, we're just seeing Roosters squad depths getting tested nice and early. I've said this before, but just the importance of a good dummy half. We're seeing the value of that now. The game's sped up. Like Ben Marsh, is it? Marshke. He's not really a true first grade dummy half, you would say, and then we're seeing the dummy halves that are trying to do too much, or the dummy halves that are just really passing off the deck each time. We're seeing the value like a Reid Marnie at the moment, or a Harry Grant, Brandon Smith, the dummy halves that are playing the best in their team, other teams that are going really well. So I think the value of a 9 is showing up really.
It's a freaky system down there, isn't it? Yeah. They lose some absolute superstars that we say they won't replace, and then you have someone like Harry Grant come through. Like last year, he made the Tigers, and I don't doubt once he's had that injury, he's just going to get better and better. And he'll be playing all game.
Do you think Brandon Smith will stay, or do you think you think
there's plenty of rumours where he's going already signed?
Yeah.
He's a first grade player, and he should be playing a lot more minutes. And while you got someone like Harry there, you're just not going to get him.
Yeah. I was thinking about that, but I don't see Brandon Smith as a 9. Like as at another club, I think he's more effective in the back row that he did as he was early in the season.
Like a Cammy McInnes sort of thing.
Yeah, sort of ball playing lock. I think that's where his position is because I don't know. Yeah, he's more of a running, and you want to see if he can develop his ball playing at lock. I think he'll be really effective at lock. So I'm not sure where he will fit in. Do you agree with that, Ben or Char?
No, I still think he's a 9. I think he's almost a world-class 9. He'll be 9 for New Zealand when there's internationals coming around. But yeah, I think it's imminent that he's either going to sign with someone like the Titans or the Doggies on a fairly long-term, big money deal, because that's what he deserves. And I think the Storm have been really good to him. He's been good to the Storm, but he's kind of just lost all the chances he can get. Like Harry Grant's back in and Cam Smith's retired, so he's not really getting any let off to play 9 on a consistent basis. So I think he'll go. But in terms of the match more broadly, I wasn't expecting a slug-a-thon, and with a lot of errors, big hits, sin bin. I wasn't expecting that. I don't know many viewers were or pundits were either.
Yeah.
Yeah, Roosters showed a lot of heart early. Storm had so much of the ball, and Roosters were digging in on their line, which is good to see. But we just saw, as a result of them having so many players out, the class of the Storm just pulled through.
Yep.
And I think we'll see that be detrimental to the Roosters going forward as well.
Yep, for sure.
Their injuries and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. I think we'll move to the Tigers-South game. That's a really interesting game to watch. Golden Point, I think Tigers really should have put a game to bed. I know your boys did not put that game to bed. What were your thoughts on the match?
Oh, it was definitely the response most Tigers fans and Madge, most importantly, would have been looking for after the dismal display against the Cowboys after Tommy's recent passing. I think the Tigers are showing much better signs, and I think they're proving to themselves a bit what they can do over full 80 minutes of football rather than playing in patches of 10 to 20 minutes, which they have done at different periods this season. So obviously they would have wanted the win, but I think you got to remember that, well, in my opinion, South are the premiership favourites. Yeah. They were before the season started, and I think they still are. They've just got so much depth and quality across the park. So I think you got to walk away from that game as a supporter, and if you're a player, and just think that we've got to build upon this for the next couple of weeks, because really the Tigers have been dealt a very tough opening draw, and where they're at as a squad probably is seen through the 1 and 5 that they are.
You're a Tigers supporter?
Yes.
She's been here in for a very, very long... It's been a tough life for you. They are the greatest underperforming NRL team in the last 2 decades, the Tigers. They've had every opportunity possible. They've had every great player possible, and their results stink. They are just great underachievers, and they'd have the worst recruitment policy that I've ever seen in the history of any code in any sport. In fact, I could put together a team of players that have been rejected or let go by the West Tigers that would nearly win a comp.
Yeah, for sure.
And how they, poor old members and supporters, can still get out there to Leichhardt and give them a cheer. We all love to think great things about the West Tigers, but they stink.
Yep, and the Tigers, they love that, starting off pretty badly.
Well, no wonder they get used to it. That's all they do. They start badly and they don't normally get much better.
And then they give their fans some false hope. They're starting a run really good, but it's a little bit too late. And I can see that happen again, Siongi.
If you can take one positive out, I think a little bit like Brisbane, they played with a little bit more heart and they actually did have a go. And I think the most frustrating thing for a fan is when your team's not having a go and you're rocking up every week.
Oh, that's why you admire the good teams, Nathan. You know, the good teams, you know, they have bad days. They're not feeling well, you know, all this sort of stuff, but they just front up all the time. You know, you look at a bloke like Cameron Smith, or you look at the great players, and, you know, they're not always feeling great, but it's amazing. That's what makes them champions. You know, what makes them special, you know, and, you know, big names are made in big games, and that's why those blokes stand up, and that's why everyone knows them. But she's the Tigers, and I feel for Madge, who's a disciplinarian, as a coach. It'd be breaking his heart. He'd be sleeping not so much at all.
What is it, but why has it been so bad for so long?
Well,
recruitment changes of CEOs.
Recruitment's a huge reason for it. And look at the amount of players they've just let go. Some of the true superstars of the game, and it even happened before they had that big four. You know, with Brooks and Moses and Woodsy, and obviously Tedesco. I mean, they just had to move heaven and earth somehow to do a better effort there, and they just couldn't do it. But even before that, they were still underachieving, even with those 4 players all on the one side. So, you know, 2005 is a long, long time ago. And we all, you know, they still dine out on Benji Marshall's pass, you know.
It was a great year.
You know, I'll never play for another club. Benji, he's been through 4.
Talking about big names and West, Tommy Raudonikis obviously passed last week, or just over last week. I know you mentioned you had a good Tommy story. Would you like to share it?
Oh, Tommy was just one of those great characters of the game, and I don't think he'd last 5 minutes playing the game at the moment. As far as the rules are concerned, he would have been sent off straight away. But he was the ultimate competitor. Tommy Raudonikis, you know, West Magpies, the big Victor symbol over the front of it at Lidcombe Oval, and then, of course, playing for New South Wales and also for Australia. He loved a kangaroo tour, and then he went to Newtown. But Roy Masters tells the story of Tommy. One game, Roy thought, you know, what am I going to do to motivate these blokes? I just need to give him something sort of special, you know. So he went out and he bought a whole packet of these Tic Tacs. They were just Tic Tacs, you know, but they were white tablets, and, you know, I think Tic Tacs had just sort of come out. I don't even know if they make Tic Tacs anymore, you know, but just to cleanse your breath. And he poured them all on the table in the dressing rooms at Lidcombe Oval, and all the Magpies boys were all hyped up, and they're all jumping. Roy said, you know, I've got this stuff. This'll you'll run through brick walls if you have this sort of white tablet. So they're all having these white tablets, bang. Anyway, they've gone out there. Tommy's had a whole handful of the white tablets. They've gone out. They've led 30-0 at half time. Yeah, and they've come back in, and Tommy said, well, give me more of that stuff. Give me more of that stuff. They're fantastic. And, you know, and Roy just said, you know, they were Tic Tacs. You know? But that's just the placebo effect that it can have. But Tommy was just an absolute legend and the toughest competitor ever.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely won't last in 2 minutes in today's game for sure. And we're going to go last bit of the NRL here. Your boys, I know, Parramatta. Dylan Brown on the weekend, how was he? You saw him?
Yeah, I was out with him. Watched like 60 minutes of the game. Had a few of our guys from our rugby team, and he just came up. It's a good feeling. One of my mates in my rugby team is a big Raiders fan, so just rubbed a bit of salt in the wounds, I
Yeah.
guess.
Great performance by them on the weekend, Parramatta.
I still remind me of like the Dragons' performance last week.
Yeah.
I hope Raiders, they're a bit better than the Dragons, so it seems, but there's still, we got beaten badly in the middle by the Dragons.
Yeah.
And yes, it's good that we can bounce back like that, but to call us, I guess, a premiership side is a bit premature in that regard. But it is, to be fair, I think Para are showing that they are probably in that top 4 estalage of teams at the moment.
Yeah.
And, I mean, the season does restart in finals, and if you put yourself in the top 4, you give yourself the best chance.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone outside the top 4 has won in, like, forever, I'm pretty sure. So, I mean, only Parramatta made that run in 2009 from the 8. So,
Yeah.
but, I think Parramatta, they proved themselves on the weekend to be in that top selection of teams. And, dispatching the Raiders. I think Mitch Moses had a great kicking game on the weekend.
Yeah.
Strong you are.
I just want to touch on Isaiah Papali'i.
Yeah.
Probably been the signing of the season.
I
And-
read somewhere that he's only on 150k, and he took like a 200k paycheck to come from the Warriors to Para. That just reeks of value. He has been one of the best edge back rowers in the comp at the moment.
Yeah.
And I can see if Madison comes back soon from his concussion, he is pushing for a starting spot. Sean Lane might go back to the bench, but we'll see how we go. Brad Arthur is very loyal, but definitely the bounce back Parramatta needed.
Yeah, he's just been immense. I'd say I reckon the stats are awesome, and he's put in the hard yards, but the energy he brings on the field has lifted the team on multiple occasions. When he was coming off the bench, now he's starting, the impact he had in that Raiders game was immense, I think. And I reckon when it comes to the end, people will be looking back and go, why didn't I pick up that bloke?
Yeah.
The New Zealand Warriors utility.
Yeah. I don't know.
No, it's funny, still so early in the season and plenty of games to go, but they are playing well.
Yeah.
I don't think they win the comp.
No.
They're definitely a top 4 team. I think you guys have summed them up beautifully. You know, I just think they'll be there in that top 4. I just don't think they've got that X factor.
Yeah.
You know, they just haven't got that X factor. As good as some of those players are, you know, I just don't know.
Yeah, there's not that one player that you think that they're winning, that person can win a comp for them. Like, there's just not one of them.
Yeah.
It's just not special enough,
No.
but very good.
Yeah.
It's sort of, you know, so 1986, you can sort of drag out the replays of 1986 grand final victory, Parramatta fans, because I don't know. I just don't think they can get it done.
Yeah, recently we've loved a good underwhelming finals performance, and it's like it's almost at the point like most clubs. If you make a top 4 finish, you're really satisfied. But it's
Nowadays, gotta take the
more
next
how we finish the back end of the season. It'll be really important.
Yeah, for sure. Strong, this is your time. We're going to move to the AFL. We'll touch on Lachie Neale. You did talk about it last week that back injury may have been hampering him, but he turned up, and a few of the other boys, McCluggage, turned up as well. Good to see the Lions play well.
Yeah, good to see the Lions playing good footy again against the Bombers. After calling Hugh McCluggage probably the softest player in the AFL, he turned up and had a bit of a blunder, and so did Lachie Neale.
Yeah.
But really, that's what we've got to see from the Lions week in, week out. They are a premiership contender on paper,
For sure.
and they have been the last 2 seasons. And we just want to see the Lions back it up because everyone loves good footy being played out in Brisbane at the Gabba.
Definitely.
So that's what we want to see.
And then next point, Pies going down to the West Coast Eagles. They did put in a good solid first quarter, first half, and then sort of let Dom Sheed sort of took over and let the game go away for them. Where to for the Pies now? Where's Nathan Buckley sitting up?
Well, Nathan Buckley's in a tight spot. I think it was tough. Everyone in footy talks about when it's not who you play, it's when you play them.
Yeah.
And right now, playing West Coast, especially at home, is a bit of a death trap.
Yeah.
They're the most efficient team in the AFL going inside 50, and the Pies felt that. I think they had 16 inside 50s for 1 goal 3 at halftime or something along those lines. Whereas West Coast were just, every time they went forward, they kicked a goal. And it comes down to the 3-headed dragon of Oscar Allen, Jack Darling and Josh Kennedy.
Yep.
They've just, Jack Darling and Kennedy have been staples in that forward line for years now.
For sure, yeah.
And seeing Oscar Allen come through and kick 5 goals on the weekend, it just seems like the forward line of West Coast is going to continuously be relentless this year and going forward.
Yeah.
For the Pies, I think they're in a bit of a tricky spot. I agree. I think some young guns need to come in, and Buckley needs to change the team up a bit and play players in different positions and prepare for the future, because they're not going to win a premiership this year.
Yep.
So they kind of have to accept that at some point in the season and move on. Whether Buckley moves on as well, is yet to be seen. We'll see. I reckon we'll see around the bye. We'll have a better indication of how Collingwood are going, because there is the chance that Collingwood turn it around and come back before the bye and they look like a top 8 team again.
Yeah.
But everyone knows the bubble wasn't good for Bucks or the Pies, so I think there's been some murmurs among the playing group that he's not going to take the team forward nor in the right direction.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they've got a big game this weekend, Anzac Day. Who do you think wins that?
Oh, I'd like to see the Pies win personally.
Yeah.
Since they lost to West Coast and the Granny, I've had a small sweet spot for the Pies, and I don't like the Bombers to any degree.
Yeah.
But yeah, great day, and should be a cracker of a game.
For sure. I think time to move on to racing. We got a little top 4. We prepared a little top 4 horse names that we could find. I'll start on number 4 for me is Who Killed Kenny? South Park reference from that, so that's good. Number 3, May the Horse Be With You. Star Wars reference. Number 2, Spider Pig from the Simpsons movie. That's very good. And number 1 from one of my favourite shows, Seinfeld, No Soup for You, the Soup Nazi. So I think that's my top 4 horse names. I know you.
I've only got 2, but I mean King Gutho, horse named King Gutho. That basically makes up 4 horses in one. By having that name, you just got to play consistently. Like if you think of Gutho, it reeks of consistent performance. So King Gutho, consistent racing, and he's also very good fullback, favourite player. So King Gutho, number 1. Number 2, Sando Bags. I'm not a big better on horse racing, and I'm a very notorious loser when I bet. But when I went and punted on Sando Bags, I got up. So I can't argue with that.
Benny, you got.
Oh, I think you stole all mine.
All right, okay. Terry, have you heard of any good horses' names?
Ah, look, their names don't matter too much to me. It's how fast they can run. It's a funny thing because everyone loves naming a horse, and there's some cracking names, but like you wouldn't think Mackay Diva is such a great name, but everyone's favourite horse, 3 Melbourne Cups. You wouldn't think Winks is such a terrific name, but all of a sudden everyone loves the name Winks, and there's been plenty of that. Probably, it wasn't a famous horse. I love the, I don't know how I ever got through the naming process, but there was a horse in Brisbane that was pretty competitive called Pistol Knights. And I think naming-wise, the old commentator had plenty of trouble trying to make sure he said Pistol Knights correctly the entire time. But it's a huge thing in the naming of a horse. And it can be difficult because so many names are taken.
Yeah. Nathan, anything?
It's an interesting process. My first ever horse was actually called Horsenado. After like Sharknado renamed. It's quite a shame because I think the callers would have had a lot of fun with him, but he unfortunately wasn't a racehorse. So there's the good and bad stories of racing. But, it's a shame with that one. But you do see some funny names, and I reckon Racing New South Wales and the different authorities, when they look at these, go.
They'd have a tough time trying to. It would be very tough to slip on through the cracks there.
Poor old callers too. Some of that.
They do an unbelievable job.
Yeah, for sure.
I think, with me, if I'm looking at a 1 to 8 race sheet, I correlate best horse name with probably best performance. So I think it is very important.
I see why you're losing.
Well,
I think we might move into a bit about the racing league. Terry, I know we've introduced the general manager. Can you tell us the role that Laurie Daly, Billy Slater and Shane Crawford play in this?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. The thing is with horse racing, it's the only major sport in the entire world that's not powered by a league. When you think about things, you think about your AFL, your NRL, your NFL, your NBA, your Bundesliga, your Serie A, your EPL. They're all major sports, but they're all powered by a league. And worldwide, racing is not powered by a league. It's all just left to its individual devices all over the planet and probably all over this state as well. So what we're trying to do with the Racing League is bring that tribalism, bring that passion and that state v state or just town v town or You know, it might be men v women, or it might be whatever you would like. Try and bring that tribalism that we've been talking about in the world of the NRL and the AFL, and try and bring that to racing. So we've done that with the establishment of 4 teams. So the Racing League is a form 4-team competition. It's New South Wales Tycoons, the ambassador's Laurie Daly. Yep. It's the Queensland Rogues, which is an ambassador called Billy Slater. The Vic Hustlers, and that's Shane Crawford, who's a Brownlow medalist, and of course Hawthorn great, and Hawthorn premiership player. And we've got a Brittany Taylor, who is the ambassador for the WA team. So the thought process behind having the ambassadors involved was to bring up this tribalism. And of course, you know, the Queenslanders hate New South Wales, and the Victorians hate New South Wales, and everyone in WA, well, they hate everyone from the east, you know. So we're trying to cash in on that. So, you know, West Coast, and you see the Dockers have been so successful there. We've seen the success of the AFL teams in Adelaide. You know what Melbourne have done in the NRL competition. So, yeah, bringing tribalism into sport. So each team in each state has 6 horses, 4 yearlings and 2 tried horses. Right. And it's about getting everyone involved. It's about empowering normal younger people and everybody, everyday Australians that can afford $200. You put in and you get your share of 6 premium horses.
Yeah, sounds fantastic. Nathan and Terry, both of you, how did the partnership with City Tats come about?
Yeah, so touching on like my background in the racing side of things, very passionate racing man, and like the club, City Tattersalls, what are we in this year? 126 years. You know, ex-bookies club, a lot of history in it, and for us it was how do we further connect with racing.
Yeah,
I think, given the major sponsor of Plug, we did a lot of events at Randwick last year with the ATC, and it's amazing the people you take to racing who've never really been to an event, and when they get there see exactly what it's about. Mm-hmm. What this is also about is bringing in that next gen of supporter as well, and into the sport. So how do we create that opportunity? And it was just a perfect fit with TRL, really exciting up and coming initiative, and we're going to be working very closely with them in the future. So get on board. Yeah,
Ben, Charlie and Arjun, it's really it's a social engagement tool. I mean, yes, do you have to know about horse racing? No, you don't have to know about horse racing at all. Do you want to have a good time? Do you want to get with your mates, with family and friends, and get together and cheer on 6 premium racehorses? Well, of course you do. And do you want to gather for a beer at City Tats and do it, which is steeped in tradition of horse racing? Well, even better. Yeah. And you're cheering home a winner, and you see these scenes in those saddling yards, and you've got the kings and the queens, and you've got the captains of industry and chicken barons, and they're all involved and they're all cheering. And every Australian should be able to do that. Every Australian should be able to feel that unbridled passion of owning a horse. And it doesn't matter if you own 100% of a horse or a hair on its tail. Yeah. You'll still get the big thrill of it. So you imagine, you'll be involved, I can see, after this program. You'll be out there and you'll be logging on to trl.net. You'll be getting involved. And don't forget, type in your code, City Tattersalls, in the code box. And you'll even get a $40 rebate here in the club to cheer home your winners and have a big cold beer at the same time.
Sounds delightful.
Sounds great. And
sounds pretty good, doesn't it?
Yeah. And it's also good to have a bit of loyalty, because I know if I'm only cheering the horse I put a bet on, having a bit of loyalty there is really good as well.
Yeah.
In terms of sales recently, how did they go and what did you buy?
Sales have been, I hate to say this, with COVID, everyone's saying, no one's got any money. Well, sales have been through the roof as far as yearlings are concerned. So we picked up 9 yearlings at the Magic Millions. They averaged $252,000. So these are expensive horses that people are getting involved with. I mean, how could you ever be involved with a $252,000 horse? Well, you get that through the Racing League. And not only that, you get 6 of them, which is even better. So you can spread that. Yeah, so we bought 9 at the Magic Millions, and the recent Easter yearling sales, which are famous the world over, possibly the best sales in the entire world. We bought 3 yearlings there as well, and I think we averaged about $260,000. If you say it quickly, it doesn't hurt so much, but it's a lot of money. Yeah. And as Nathan probably knows in the racing world, spending a bucket load of money doesn't guarantee you success on the track, but spending in a good range, buying premium horses increases your chance. And our Bloodstock team has done an unbelievable job and have got a great record. And the more premium horse you can buy across the board, the better off you're going to be. And if you can have 6 of them and not just put your eggs in all one basket of one horse. If you got 6 to share the joy, it's even better. And I think that's the value proposition of having your share of 6 premium racehorses for $200 in and $20 a month. I think it's tremendous.
The actual buying itself is a fascinating process too. Like what the bloodstock agents go through, you know, the history of the horse. You look at the mother and the father, distance. You're looking for certain turf and love running on. There's so many things that go into it, and it blows your mind. I've sat down with someone and gone through it, and they spend days and days and days going through catalogues to understand which one they're going to go for on the day. And then, as you say, you go there with a budget, and it gets blown out by $100,000-$200,000, and you don't get the one that you wanted. But really awesome process that they go through.
To give you a little bit of an insight, if you like, we went to the sales, the most recent sales. We had to buy 3 yearlings. We went there on our short list. We had, after months of inspections and days of inspections and having a look again at those horses, we got it down to 20. And then our vet, after x-rays, they're all checked for x-rays, they're all checked for throat, because if you can't breathe, it's very, very hard to run. So we put a pen through the vet. So we had 19 targets. We got blown out of the water on our first 6 targets and thought, you know what? We might not be able to buy a horse here. It might just be too expensive, even if you're willing to spend $250,000. And in the end, you just find your mark and you just find the right horses. And who knows why people like a particular horse, right? Yeah. Or why you can buy it. But, yeah, it was an interesting concept. But, yeah, you mentioned the days and days of it. So our bloodstock agent might see those horses as a foal. He might see them as a weanling. He'll see them as a yearling. Then he'd like to see them on the farm where they've been brought up. You want to buy from a good farm. And then he'd like to see how they behave at the sales as well, and how they parade and how they walk. And it's an amazing process. It's an imperfect science. I don't truly understand, to tell you the truth, but it is a science.
Yeah, sounds fantastic. I think we're going to be getting onto that after this podcast, definitely.
For sure.
You
imagine walking into the track or walking to City Tattlesall's here, and you'll be sitting down and you'll be able to tell everyone, oh, Gay Waterhouse tells me that my horse will be winning in the 3rd race. What do you mean? You can't afford a horse? Yeah, of course I can. Yeah. In fact, I've got 6 of them. And here's Gay. You'll get all that information. We've got all the best trainers. So the New South Wales team, you got Gay Waterhouse and Adrian Bott. You got the Friedman brothers who've just won the Slipper. You got Joe Pride, who's going enormous with Eduardo and a genius with tried horses. You got Mark Newnham, who's probably the best young talent as far as training is concerned. You got Brett Kavanagh at Scone, who will have the country championship horse. And then you got Kim Waugh, and trying to deflect the attention of Mark Waugh, but Kim will have our horse up there at Wyong. So they're elite horses with elite trainers.
Anything you want to add, Nathan?
Just the ownership. There's no better feeling. People talk about, you may never be an elite athlete, so an elite athlete is lucky enough to get to that top level. Actually owning a horse, you are in that same field, right? Because you've got, on the day, a horse that you own, and you'll get addicted to following them around and waiting for that next update. When am I going to get the video? When's the audio coming through? When's it nominated for a trial? The whole process, and it's a long one, but it's very exciting. And to have 6, good luck keeping up.
It's a big thing for the league as well, and communication, and this has been made possible because of the mobile phone. You buy it, you get trl.net on your phone, you'll get all your information from all the trainers on the phone, video updates. It's huge. And in days gone by, you'd buy a horse and you'd be lucky if the trainer even told you when it was running. and now they understand they've constantly got to keep you updated.
Yeah, for sure. This weekend, Randwick, any tips for us?
Oh, geez, I haven't even had a real good look at them this weekend. In the All-Age Stakes, it's a big weekend for the All-Age Stakes.
Big one. He's got me as well. I haven't looked at it.
What is it? It's only Tuesday. Look, I'm desperate, but I haven't started looking at the fields yet.
We'll have to do some future education. So when's Noms closed for Saturday? It's
Wednesday.
Tomorrow, isn't it?
Yeah, right. Wednesday night. Wednesday 9 o'clock. Wednesday 9 o'clock.
Wednesday 9 o'clock.
So reach out Friday afternoon.
But we've just had the 2 days of the championships, and I think again you saw the demographic change at the racetrack a fair bit. A lot of younger people there, which is terrific, and now they can actually own through the racing league. So get involved.
Yep. Okay. Sounds good. Talking about tipping or punting, have you had any really good punting stories that you can share with us?
The good ones are really few and far between.
Yeah.
I've got plenty of absolutely tragic ones where I've been beaten by a nose. Look, I grew up, my father was a racing commentator, stroke greyhound commentator, so I grew up at track since I was a kid. So I'm sort of immune to having a loss. But it's amazing. You only just, the thrill of having a bet and winning is what keeps drawing everybody back, and then you hype it up even further with ownership. No really wonderful story I can tell you. I've had some great moments. We've come back and from carnivals and thought, geez, that was fantastic. And then you think it's all so easy. Then next minute, just all slips away.
Talking about great moments, what do you reckon the greatest day on the racing calendar is for you?
Oh, geez. That's debatable. I love Golden Slipper Day. It's got 5 Group 1s. And if you win the Slipper, there's no other race in the world that really changes a person's life or a horse's life like a Golden Slipper. So if you're a colt and you win the Slipper, you're instantly worth $30 million. Right.
Jeez.
Instantly worth $30 million. So for me, Golden Slipper Day is like having 5 grand finals on the one day. That's what the 5 Group 1s are. My other favourite day, which I love, is Derby Day in Melbourne, which is the 4 Group 1s on the Saturday.
Yeah.
I've sort of been lucky. I've been to a Kentucky Derby, which is
right.
with 164,000 people. I've probably done 4 Royal Ascots, which has been fantastic. I've done a Durban in July in South Africa. I've raced in Buenos Aires and Argentina and Chile, which has been fantastic as well. So I've been to most of the major race meetings all around the world, which has been fantastic. But we do racing here across the board better than anywhere in the world.
For sure. Nathan,
Better than anywhere in the world.
Depends on the state. I think
It depends. On the state.
Everest has very much changed New South Wales racing particularly, and such an awesome concept that they've come up with there. But even Victoria, like that whole Derby Day, Melbourne Cup, that week of racing, if you haven't done it, you've got to do it. It's unbelievable.
You go all right down there, boys. You just got to pace yourself. As Nathan knows, it's a pretty long week.
There'll be owners this time.
You'll be owners. You'll be owners. Exactly right.
I might have to take a trip down then.
Be rude not to.
It would be rude not to.
Obviously, you've been around, been a journalist most of your life, and you've met a few famous people. Have you been? Who's surprised you the most in terms of either overwhelmed or underwhelmed as a person? Like, didn't meet expectations or something like that?
Yeah, that's a good question. Most of them have been pretty good. I've been sort of lucky to meet lots of people. It's funny, if you've been around them long enough, it's not such a big thrill as you may well think. But the great thing was, I guess, throughout my era, you had to you met them sort of personally. If you wanted to know, if you wanted to go and talk to Greg Norman, you went, "Hey, Greg, hi, I'm Terry. Can we have a chat?" And you go, "Yeah, sure." He'd be the most charismatic man I've ever met.
Right. Yeah.
I know that sounds a little bit sycophantic, but Greg Norman, if he walked into a room, the room stops. Shane Warne was another one like that, and through my association with Slats had a little bit to do with Warney. He was charismatic, but Greg was charismatic. I met Jack Nicklaus, I met Palm, I met Mark Spitz. We've had wonderful Greg Louganis, the great Olympic diver, which have been great. Just so many famous people, really. We've had so many of them here. This country loves sport like nobody else, but they've all been good. Haven't met too many arseholes, if that's what you want.
I was trying to get something like that.
I'm just trying to think. Richard Hadley, probably.
Okay.
I guess it's a little bit of a bygone era, but Richard Hadley was the only bloke who sort of abused me in front of everyone. They were the Great West Indians that I loved when they came out. Viv, that was pretty good with his time. And again, if you wanted to talk to Viv or Clive Lloyd or a Gordon Greenwich or a Desmond Haynes, who it may well have been, or a Malcolm Marshall or Andy Roberts, you were lucky enough in my area to be able to walk up to them and go, introduce yourself and say, "Can you have a chat?" Well, of course, now it's all stage managed. They're all given their time. You'll be talking at midday and everyone sits back in a room and no one really gets to mingle. So, and lucky enough to become friends with lots of, I guess the league players of bygone, Alfie Langer and, like Gene Miles, Wally Lewis, because I had my time up in Brisbane, Alan Border, the Aussie skipper, so good people like that. And then working with Michael Slater for 10 years and obviously Laurie Daly. So, they've all been pretty good, to tell you the truth.
Did you ever get an invite to Alfie's birthday party?
I've been to Alfie's house plenty of times and been to the races plenty of times with Alfie as well.
Pretty loose character?
Loose. Yeah, that could be. Yeah, you could describe Alfie. He's still having a bet.
Yeah.
He's still having a quiet little vodka and orange along the way, but he's one of those great characters who's the shyest person in the world, but was just one of the most bravest players as well.
Yeah. I think on that, Is there anyone who's really surprised you thought, wow, like I didn't expect them to be sort of like this, like in terms of in a good way?
Yeah, I met a 14-year-old called Ian Thorpe at one stage, and we were launching. We were doing some launches around the country, in fact, for Uncle Toby's at the time, because the Uncle Toby Super Series was big in that particular time, and they sort of latched onto this young bloke who was sort of breaking records in the pool. And I remember doing a couple of events with him and coming back home and saying to my wife, Karen, I've just met the most impressive 14-year-old I've ever met in my entire life. And that was Ian Thorpe. I said, I think he might develop into something. And, he certainly did develop into something.
Wow. So you could tell from that age that he was a real deal.
He was always going to be a superstar.
Wow.
He was always going to be a superstar, and he proved to be that superstar.
Wow. That's interesting.
Oh, good one. So just through your career, you've seen a lot of change with media in the sport. So do you think what the changes that we've seen with full access into games and cameras in every single room and on the field, do you think that's a change that's good for the sports and good for the fan base, or do you think it should be kept behind closed doors a bit more?
No, I'm certainly not a traditionalist in that. I think the closer you can bring your fan, the players make their wages through the fan. The more access that fan can have, and the more that TV, and they go, oh, it's a intrusion on our lives and it's an intrusion on our privacy. Well, suck it up. And get on with it. You're being well compensated, and the fan needs to be catered for. And I think it's terrific. Within reason. On the sporting field, or even the change rooms, I think should have the access and even greater access. I think cricket's got to get with the times even more, and allow more access to the players, which should be better. And the players don't really want it. Because it is an invasion on their privacy. But again, suck it up.
Yeah, I think it's definitely like in terms of like on-field mics and stuff. Sledging, you can't really sledge anymore, otherwise you just get done or something.
You see people getting fined from what's picked up on like a stump mic or a ref mic. That wouldn't normally be picked up if they weren't there.
Yeah. I think it's hard to invade their privacy and then fine them for a moment of madness. I think we've got to be lenient there. I don't have any issue with that. I think, but the technology is staggering, and it's changed the way you view sport.
For sure. I think that pretty much wraps us up for the podcast. Also, I just want to give a big thank to our sponsors, Connection to Sport and Scape. Just big thanks for supporting us, and big thank you to City Tassels for allowing us to record our live podcast here. Before we do that, my social, if we want to win 6 reserve tickets for the Roosters Dragons game, there'll be a question on our Instagram story. Check out for that. Answer the question correctly, and I'll send you the details, and we'll collect your details to get you those tickets. Terry, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Arjun. It's been great to be here.
Yeah, and Nathan, thanks as well for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
All right, and we'll see you guys next week. Thank you.